Bitcoin can reclaim 70K by the end of July. I'll go first and say that it will. I just think because it's burnt out and the sentiment is so negative that any incremental buying will lift it through 70. What do you think?
I would say 70-30, it gets back up. A lot depends on, I think, listen, if clarity happens, I definitely think it does. If clarity doesn't happen, and we know that by the end of the, and we'll know by July 10th if this is happening or not, right?
For years, one of the biggest questions hanging over the cryptocurrency industry has been whether Washington would finally provide clear rules for digital assets. Every major rally, every institutional adoption story, and every wave of innovation has eventually run into the same obstacle: regulatory uncertainty. Now, according to billionaire investor Mike Novogratz, that uncertainty may be approaching a critical turning point. After spending time directly with lawmakers in Washington, Novogratz believes the outcome of upcoming legislation could have a major impact not just on crypto regulation, but potentially on Bitcoin's next move as well. At the same time, financial markets are facing another fascinating development. Some of the biggest technology and innovation stories in the world are attracting enormous amounts of capital, creating excitement across Wall Street while also raising concerns about whether investors are becoming too optimistic. So in today's video, we'll break down why Novogratz believes a key deadline could determine Bitcoin's short-term direction, why lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle are still fighting over crypto legislation, and why one of the largest public offerings in history has him thinking about previous market tops. Before we dive in, please take a little moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for instant alerts every time we post a video. Buy $10,000 of Bitcoin on a regular exchange. It grows to $60,000. That $50,000 profit? You could owe $10,000 or more in capital gains tax. Now do the same trade inside a Roth IRA with iTrustCapital. That growth? Tax-free. You keep the full $50,000. Same crypto. Completely different outcome. iTrustCapital lets you hold crypto in a self-directed IRA, trade 24/7, and secure your assets with institutional-grade custody. You can also hold gold, silver, and stake certain assets. Real U.S. customer support. $100 bonus when you fund through the link below. In crypto, structure beats timing. Every time. Thanks for the support and enjoy the video.
I spent 10 hours Wednesday. I met with 8 different senators, congressmen, left and right. Here are the positives. Everyone left and right wants to get this done. They have worked. Remember, the way bills get passed, all 100 senators don't pay attention to every bill. In this case, it's about 8 from the Democratic side and 6 from the Republican side. And it's their staffs who have worked tirelessly for 18 months. They are so sick of talking about these issues. And both issues are very close. We're down to 3 issues in a giant bill, and I think they're all solvable. But they're not, they're at an impasse right now. One is ethics. Normally, you wouldn't need an ethics provision in any kind of bill, right? We have the emoluments clause in the Constitution that stops the president from profiting off, the presidency. We have, laws all over the books on insider trading or fraud. But the Democrats feel, rightfully or wrongfully, that this administration has personally benefited a ton, and crypto has been one of the avenues they've used it. And so they're like, you got to give us politically at least something that says this isn't good. We know, the Democrats know, you can't stop the president from doing anything he wants to do. So they're not gonna write something in the law that's a direct assault on him. And they came up with what looked like a workable solution where, just like in the Lakeland Riley case, you allow the state attorney generals to sue the U.S. attorney general if they don't think the U.S. attorney general is doing their job. That seems to be where we should end up. The White House is pushing back on anything with ethics, and we'll see, because that's gonna be one of the things. Someone's gonna give on that. But that's right where the 50-yard line is. Then you have the ability to prosecute people like Tornado Cash, which is a money laundering spinner. Should the guy who built it be liable? The crypto community says, no, it's just code. You can't hold the guy responsible for the code. And there are laws to go after bad actors. And so it's how much weaponry do you want to give prosecutors and the police? And, you know, when I was down there, there was tons of police and prosecutors and DAs. Like, both sides are bringing all the groups down here. And so those are really the two issues. There's a couple smaller ones that I think will just get worked out. And so we'll see. I'm still positive, but I would have gone from 85-15 3 weeks ago to 60-40. And it's, well, I think it's going to get done is because they really wanted to get done. The Democrats do and the Republicans. But we're at a weird time here, right? Like, we went from Trump picking Pulte to be the head of the intelligence community.
Yep, the DNI head. Yep.
DNI had a horrific pick in lots of ways. No experience, already has, you know, not engendered himself any friends as the head of, you know, housing, and felt a ton of heat. And then he pivots and puts Jay Clayton, who I think everyone's going to feel pretty comfortable with, right?
Yeah,
like,
he'll get Senate confirmation for
yeah,
sure.
and Jay will be a great head. You know, he's a world-class guy. He's got integrity. He's, you know, like, everyone has to play politics a little once they're in the political seat. But I know who Jay golfs with, and I know who he hangs with, and there's no way he's going to behave horribly, break laws, and think he can still be friends with his friends. And so, like, I would be shocked if Jay Clayton does anything different than.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that. You know, all right. So I'm going to say that the Clarity Act does not pass. So you're at 60%. I sort of feel like the wind is out of it. I think some of the things that the president does has sufficiently upset the opposition where they just don't want to give him the win here. With that in mind, do you think Bitcoin can reclaim 70K by the end of July? I'll go first and say that it will. I just think because it's burnt out and the sentiment is so negative that any incremental buying will lift it through 70. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say 70-30, it gets back up. A lot depends on, I mean, I think, listen, if clarity happens, I definitely think it does. If clarity doesn't happen, and we know that by the end of we'll know by July 10th if this is happening or not, right? I mean, there's.
Tell me why. Why is that a big date in your mind?
Well, because at one point the Congress is over. They all go home for the summer, you know, and there's a very tight calendar. You got to get John Thune to put you on the floor. He's only going to do that if you got 60 votes, and it's not 60, it's 65. No one wants to be the 60th vote. We know there are two Republicans that probably will not vote for this. Josh Hawley and Rand Paul. And so you got to get 15 Democrats, you know, and there are a couple key Democrats that, you know, again, there's only 8 of them that have really worked on this bill. And so the other 49 or whatever, 41 Democrats are looking at those 8. And so that's why it's so important, and it can change like this.
What makes Novogratz's comments particularly interesting is that they aren't based on speculation from the outside looking in. They're based on direct conversations with lawmakers, congressional staff, and people actively involved in shaping crypto legislation. According to Novogratz, after months of negotiations, the debate is no longer centered around whether crypto should have regulatory clarity. Instead, lawmakers are arguing over a handful of remaining issues that have become political sticking points. What's especially important is the timeline. As Novogratz explains, Congress operates on a tight schedule. Lawmakers eventually leave Washington for their summer recess, creating a limited window to move major legislation forward. If progress isn't made quickly, the process could become significantly more complicated. This helps explain why the market is paying such close attention to upcoming developments. If a regulatory breakthrough occurs, it could remove one of the biggest uncertainties hanging over the crypto sector. If it doesn't, investors may be forced to wait much longer for meaningful clarity. But while crypto investors focus on Washington, another development is unfolding in traditional markets that has Novogratz paying very close attention. And it involves one of the biggest innovation stories of our generation.
Yeah, listen, so biggest IPO by a factor of 3 of all time, right? They raised 75. If the green shoe gets trigger more than 75 versus say 25 billion for Aramco and some of the other giants. And so by far the biggest IPO, it's an IPO that brings in space and in AI. And quite frankly, a lot of the valuation comes from the AI side. And so it's just two of the big themes of the market in one of the great bull markets, bubble, not bubble, AI, technology shift. And Anthony, I worry because sometimes this is how great markets end. The Palm IPO was right at the end of the
I remember the Palm Pilot. Yep.
Of the internet bubble, and it just feels that way. I think Goldman, JP, the bankers did a very good job on this. They got three different groups of buyers. They've got the index buyers. We never had that before in an IPO. They changed the rules. The SEC changed the rules. S&P changed the rules to get these guys all in the indexes. So those are buyers that just have to buy. Then they got the big institutions, the BlackRocks, the Fidelities, the T. Rowe, that want to buy because they need to be indexed to some form of, what these indexes are going to be. And then they have hedge funds and retail. And he was doing 15% for retail. And so oversubscribed, they cut back allocations. And so it should trade well today. I tell you, if the market opens at 170 and we close right on that 145, 135, 140, overall market's going to go lower, right? That won't be great. If we close anywhere 160 to 180, I think NASDAQ higher. I mean, this is happening at the same time as Trump is solving the war. Getting us out of the war for the 13th time, but it feels like this could be more real.
Okay.
And so it's a big day. You better be sitting at your desk for the close because, again, NASDAQ closes red, I'm going to sell more. NASDAQ closes green, I think the market goes up. Listen, this is a great day for America, and it's a great day for innovation and technology. It's a great day for venture capital in Silicon Valley. Venture is an important part of what the secret sauce of America is. It's people willing to take bets on things that might not feel like a lot for 5, 6, 7, 10 years. I mean, I made my SpaceX bet in 2013, to Antonio Gracias the first time. They were selling employee shares. And it was really my brother-in-law, who was the guy that ran TED, who was just banging it. He was like, no, this could be one of the biggest companies in the world. And I was like, I was so worried about the Mars thing. Oh, he's going to waste all his money trying to go to Mars. That seems so science fiction. I did it because I already had money, and my brother-in-law and my friend Jeff Lowe were pushing me. And so I said, all right, I'll do it. And I was actually mocked by one of my ex-Goldman partners for how little I did as a percent of my net worth. It was probably, a little less than 1% of my net worth. He was like, no, this is a 3% idea, 4% idea. And I was like, yes, you're crazy.
To me, it's about investing, right? This show is about all things markets and investing and the feedback on this.
You got to have some portion of your portfolio in early stage venture.
No question.
And it's hard to get access to the right things. And, if you look at the venture funds, if you were in benchmark, every fund, you're not working. You're cooking with gas. Right. There are plenty of venture funds that have been dogs.
Right.
And so even within venture, in each venture portfolio, they have a thing called power law. 2 or 3, sometimes one position drives the whole fund. That's the same in venture. There are not that many great venture funds, and it's, those are the ones you got to get into.
The second half of Novogratz's discussion highlights a fascinating contrast currently shaping financial markets. On one hand, investors are witnessing extraordinary innovation. Artificial intelligence, space technology, advanced computing, and next-generation infrastructure are attracting massive amounts of capital and creating entirely new industries. On the other hand, history teaches us that periods of intense excitement can sometimes produce excessive optimism. That's why Novogratz draws comparisons to previous market cycles. Throughout history, some of the most celebrated public offerings have occurred near major turning points in financial markets. It doesn't automatically mean a top is forming. But it does remind investors to remain disciplined even when enthusiasm is running high. What stands out most is that Novogratz isn't bearish on innovation. Far from it. he repeatedly emphasizes that betting against technological progress has often been a losing strategy. His own investment in SpaceX serves as an example of how transformative ideas can appear unrealistic in their early stages before eventually becoming world-changing businesses. The broader lesson for investors is that wealth creation often comes from identifying major technological shifts before they become obvious to everyone else. Whether it's artificial intelligence, space commercialization, blockchain technology, or other emerging sectors, the biggest opportunities frequently begin as ideas that seem too ambitious to succeed. At the same time, successful investing requires balancing conviction with risk management. Not every company becomes the next SpaceX. Not every startup becomes a trillion-dollar giant. And not every market surge lasts forever. As we move through the coming weeks, investors will be watching two critical stories unfold simultaneously. First, whether Washington delivers the regulatory clarity that many believe could unlock the next phase of crypto adoption. And second, whether the wave of enthusiasm surrounding innovation and technology continues pushing markets higher or begins showing signs of overheating. Either way, Mike Novogratz believes we're entering a period where major decisions are about to be made, and those decisions could shape both traditional markets and digital assets for months to come. And let us know in the comments, do you think regulatory clarity will be the catalyst that sends Bitcoin significantly higher, or is the market focused on something even bigger? If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.